Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to our final story. And our final story is a mixture of a client and a company story. And it's one that we've used in the one that we've used, a really real success story, actually. And I'm going to ask my colleague, Jonathan, who is a fellow director of Uspire. I'm going to ask Jonathan to tell this story to us. Yeah, and it's one that's kind of certainly a selling story about a sale, right?
Yeah, and good afternoon, everyone. And I was just listening to everyone else's stories actually, because I'm not sure I prepared as well as everyone else. But what I liked about what I've heard is, and what resonates, hopefully in this story I'm going to tell you, are some of these things that people have mentioned: values, the importance of ownership, having the courage to take risks. This story is about one of our customers. Um, and they're an industrial customer. They make things, they make products. They're very good at making things, and they love process. They love process. Um, and a number of years ago, they got a new financial director who decided the way they were going to grow was to acquire lots of other businesses that would complement them. And there are a lot of these businesses all around, mainly sort of Scandinavia, actually. Um, and many of them were owned by the people who had started them. In some cases, families, some cases, colleagues. Um, but what they discovered when they looked at their own performance, the data was telling them, thank you for that, Claire, the data was telling them that less than 5% of their acquisitions were successful. And they were doing all the things that that they thought were the right things. They were doing the due diligence, they were doing the financial analysis, they were getting the lawyers involved. And at every stage where they failed, the reason they failed was because they had failed to persuade the current owners that the future was brighter if they were part of this organization, their organization. Um, when we started to chat to we chatted to some of the companies that they'd purchased and some that they'd tried to purchase and failed. And what we discovered, uh, and the key insight actually that drove us to incorporate storytelling into the program we created for them, and I'll show you that in a second, was that they were trying to create the story about themselves. Come and join us. We're a fantastic business. You'd love to be part of us, wouldn't you? And we're going to take you to this exciting new world. Well, they were never ever making the story about the company they were trying to acquire. So that was the first insight. They needed to make the story about the company they were trying to acquire and not about themselves. And that led us to the second. It was sort of an insight, but I threw a quote at them, which they were a bit shocked. And my colleagues in my business might be a bit shocked as well, because it's not a very, if you've done your color insights, I'm very red blue, so it's not a very, it's more of a feeling quote. And the quote which I put into the proposal for them was, "You don't." It's Aristotle. You know, hopefully we all know who Aristotle is. Great theorist. Um, but you don't influence people through intellect. You do it through emotion. And I put that in our proposal and said, look, we've had a look at what you're trying to do is use a process to sell the opportunity to influence these current owners. Many of them were actually family members. And it's just not landing because they don't understand what you're trying to achieve. So what we did, I'm going to just share my screen. If I can work out how to do it. There we go. There's a button here. Make sure I share the right one. There's a lot going on. Hopefully that's. Can you see that?
Just coming. Just coming.
Is that doing something?
Thinking about it.
I'll talk about it while it's hopefully
Yeah, here,
it's
here
appeared.
she blows.
It's
Yeah,
appeared.
yeah.
What we did is we introduced, there's a series of workshops.
Sorry, JB. Sorry, JB. Could you make it Full screen.
Oh, I thought I was making it full screen.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is that okay? You can't see it? The
It's coming
dangerous
on.
screens.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry.
Is that
Don't worry.
okay?
Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
So, the reason, so what we did is we introduced storytelling into one of the workshops. So we had the third workshop was all about creating the compelling story. And if you look at this compelling story process that we framework we put up, it is the hero's journey.
Yeah,
So they were an example. We actually did this with a real life example where it was a Danish business, family owned business that was started by the parents and then taken over by the son. And they were trying to acquire this business. And they knew that they needed to persuade this individual that their future, the unknown future, was going to be exciting for them. So they did it completely differently. They'd done all the due diligence. We started by looking at the backstory and creating the central idea they wanted to share, which was they were going to make their business even more successful. And they actually started by understanding the values of the business they were trying to acquire. And they realized there was one value, which was people centric, which was all about ensuring that the people who worked in that business could thrive. Um, so uh, they used that as a central pillar, and they created an emotional connection with the current owners, which they'd never done before. You know, they found a way of connecting with them, and they connected with the parents who'd retired, who started the business, and then they painted a picture of what this unknown future world could look like. And they did it by telling a story. What if we could create a business that uh, allowed not only the existing people in your organization to thrive, but all the subsequent people who join to thrive and improve your retention, help you reach markets that you've never been able to reach before, and do it in a way that actually leverages what we can bring, which is access to all those markets. So you can be you, but we'll help you be you better. Um, and that was the message of how they thought they could succeed. And what was interesting was, they thought they were going to have to spend a lot of time. They were all getting prepared to negotiate on the price, but actually what they found was this compelling story of how they would create something really new and amazing was actually doing the negotiation for them, because by the end of the process, this Danish company, what they learned is that the person who'd inherited it didn't want to run it, because but they loved the work that they did and they wanted to innovate. So as part of that process, he was given a new role as head of innovation, which took him out of managing a business that he'd inherited into a role that he absolutely loved, and linked to his values, and ended up uh, creating something together that was amazing. So this we actually applied this to an acquisition process. They told the story, they made the acquisition, and they're now working with this business, delivering something truly amazing. So, um, that's to sort of demonstrate how you can build storytelling into uh, a program of activity that helped a business that was very poor, had the money to make the acquisitions, but it was very poor um, at completing these acquisitions, and we changed their entire mindset by
yeah.
effectively creating the hero's journey as a process.